Welcome back, Look Recap. Today I'm going to recap one of an adventure thriller films from 2022 titled The Ledge. Let's get straight to the storyline. As the movie begins, we see a number of scenes depicting climbers scaling the Delamy Mountains. Kelly and Sophie are friends who are here on vacation. They plan to climb the 10,000-foot sheer cliffs. Kylie takes off her pendant and at the moment, she is reminiscing about the time she and her late boyfriend climbed this mountain. At that moment, four loud men come outside, driving a Jeep and making a lot of noise that gets the girls' attention. One of the men, Josh, notices Sophie and they seem interested in each other. Josh also invites them both to a party for drinks and other activities. After Kelly declined, Sophie declined as well. Josh's friend Zach says that the locals told them that they were the only ones climbing this mountain because it was frozen. Josh then approached them and started making lewd jokes, which made Tyler angry. At the cabin, Sophie convinces Kelly to go with them for a drink and promises they'll be back on time. After many requests, Kylie finally agrees to go with them. As the sun set, the girls and guys sat around the fire. Sophie, being the talker that she is, has no problem flirting with Josh while Kelly sits quietly sipping her drink. Sophie makes fun of Josh's big watch, and Josh tells her it's a watch with a personalized locator. Sophie also told the group that she and Kelly plan to conquer Antero, and Tyler said they plan to climb the same mountain, but they were all shocked when Sophie said they plan to climb a higher mountain. After all this, Kelly gets up to go to bed, but Josh suddenly grabs Kelly's arm and tries to get her to stay. After Kelly leaves, Josh suggests that they climb the crag tomorrow with the girls, and Sophie teases him that they don't have the guts to climb the crag, preferring instead to take the easy route to the top. Back at her cabin, Kelly turns on a handheld camera and watches a video that she had made of a guy named Luca, her boyfriend. They talk about how this was his 5th time climbing Antilau and Kylie's first. Flashback shot of Kelly and Sophie at the climbing gym where she and Luca first met. Outside, Sophie has had a lot to drink and is making out with Josh. She gets up to relieve herself and Josh's friend tries to calm him down, reminding him that he has a fiancée. Sophie is about to walk back in when Josh shows up and tries to kiss her. Sophie tells him to back off, but Josh begins to force himself on her, venting his anger at being teased earlier. Josh's friends heard Sophie scream as Josh tried to force a kiss on her and Sophie scratched Josh's face. Josh's friends pull him away from Sophie. Sophie ran away and Josh's friends chased after her, trying to talk to her and talk her out of suing Josh. Josh grabbed Sophie and hit her. Sophie fell and broke her spine on the rocks below, but she lived. Meanwhile, Kylie wakes up when she hears the noise outside. She goes to Sophie and finds the campfire abandoned. Now the men gather around a pleading Sophie, not knowing what to do. Ray is about to call 911, but Josh tells him that no one will believe it was an accident because Josh has scratches on his face, Zach has bite marks on his hands, and she gets skin under her fingernails. Josh says they have to kill her or their lives are over. He then grabs a large rock and smashes it into Sophie's head. Josh then hands the rock to Zach and goads him into hitting Sophie. Then each of their hands are covered in Sophie's blood, so that each of them is equally involved in the crime. Afterward, Josh suggests that they clean her fingernails and then throw her further away to make it look like she died accidentally while climbing. While all this is going on, Kelly had come into view of the guys. She had sensed danger and had turned on the handheld. Unfortunately, Kelly let out an involuntary scream, alerting everyone to her presence. Josh saw that she had her camera with her, so everyone chased after her. She runs off into the woods and hides, and everyone splits up to look for her. Kelly managed to run back to her cabin and ran into Ray, but Ray didn't stop her. She picks up her climbing gear and heads for Antitrau Peak, hoping to get away from the guys since they aren't experienced climbers like her. As she started to climb, the guys caught up with her and Tyler climbed after her. He wasn't as fast a climber as Kelly, and several times he caught up to her, but she put her foot down on him. Eventually, he fell to the ground and broke his leg. He screamed in pain as his shin protruded. Josh was angry and yelled at Kelly that he was going to catch her. They took their injured friend out of the cabin and Josh fed him a handful of painkillers instead of rushing him to the emergency room. Josh focuses on retrieving the camera, which contains the evidence that declares them murderers. For Kelly, it would be a matter of life or death, and Kelly would not give up. At the base of the mountain, the men find Kylie's cell phone, which falls out as Kylie begins to climb. Josh keeps the phone and he tells his friends that he didn't take his gloves and needs to return to the cabin, leaving his friends to wait for him. Ray and Zach started talking and Ray felt guilty about what they had done. After a long time Josh doesn't return and Zach returns to the cabin to check on him. He finds Josh hurrying out and reprimands him for not waiting in place. Then they go back and start climbing and start chasing Kelly, who continues to climb. She remembers her boyfriend telling her that rock climbing is like chess and that she should concentrate on her mind rather than her muscles. So she pulls out a map to check out the route before continuing to rock climb. Here we learn that the men aren't far behind because they have better supplies and equipment. Meanwhile, Kelly is in trouble again when a snake crawls onto her hand. She was scared, but she didn't move or panic until the snake disappeared. In fact, her hands were unloved and the feeling of climbing was beginning to get to her. She stopped to get a drink of water, but unfortunately her water bottle fell below. Josh sees this and mocks her for drinking from her own water bottle. He continued to taunt her by sending requests to himself from her social media accounts and using her cell phone to post fake statuses in her name. Kelly did her best to ignore the asshole and put powder on her hands to continue climbing. She found a rope that would help her jump to a higher support, but she couldn't reach it. Kylie took a piece of wire out of her bag and used it to reach the rope. Josh and his friend climbed higher and faster using an easier method than Kylie because she had confined herself to the crags of the mountains so that the men couldn't get to her. Josh throws her a rope and tells her to tie her camera to the rope and they'll leave her in peace. But Kelly is no fool and she ties a note to the rope, which makes Josh even more angry. Having no other choice, Kelly is forced to spend the night in the tent that she has found. She found a few items in the tent, including a sharp object, which she pocketed for future use. Kelly then did her best to fix the tent. She needed a place to rest. That's when we realized that she and her boyfriend had hiked in the same spot a year ago. Unbeknownst to Kelly, her boyfriend surprised Kelly by proposing, but the happy moment was cut short when he lost his footing and fell. Later that night, Kelly was woken up by Zach, who jumped off the ropes and grabbed her. In the confusion, Kelly stabbed Zach. Ray and Josh pulled them up, but when Josh approached Kelly and took her necklace, Kelly grabbed the knife from Zach and cut the rope. Kelly was very lucky that she caught the tent as she fell and perched on the surface of the mountain. With the tent falling off the ledge, her only option now is to spend the night shivering in the cold. Zach, now hurt, wants Josh to call for help, and Ray agrees. That night, as the three of them sleep, Zach turns to Ray and tells him that he suspects Josh is lying. Zach suspects that Josh killed Tyler when he went in because he didn't want Tyler to call for help. As a result, Zach and Ray plan to trigger the locator beacon on Josh's watch, but fail because Josh is found. Josh and Zach get into an argument and Josh pushes Zach off a cliff. Later, Ray wakes up from his sleep and Josh lies to him that he sent Zach to Tyler. Ray convinces Josh to let him go talk to Kelly about the camera, and Josh does as he says. When Ray saw Kelly, he gave her his food and apologized for what happened to her friend. Kelly said that Josh had killed Zach. Ray doesn't believe her, so Kelly tells Ray that no matter what happens, Josh will kill them both. Finally, Kelly took the camera to Ray and Ray took it to Josh. When Josh checks the camera, he realizes that the camera's memory card is missing. Josh gets angry and the two start attacking each other. Unfortunately, Josh beat up Ray, then set him on fire and finally finished him off. Now that his friends are dead, it's Kylie's turn. Meanwhile, Kylie looks around and realizes that her knife is not far away, so she carefully goes to get it. As she gets the knife, the appearance of a snake gives her an idea of what to do next. Josh prepares to attack Kelly himself, and when he confronts Kelly, he demands to know the location of the memory card. Kelly lies to him and tells him that the memory card is in her bag, which is in a crevice in the cliff. Josh puts his hand in as prompted, but as soon as he does, his hand is bitten by a snake. He gets angry at Kelly's plan and starts attacking her. Kelly did her best to repel him and eventually gained the upper hand. At this point, Josh was forced to grab a rock and he began to lose his strength. Kelly took the necklace from him and she pressed the button on her watch in order to summon immediate assistance. Kylie breathes a sigh of relief as her nightmare is over and her ring and all the evidence is still in her hands. Finally, we see Kelly continue her climb to the top of the mountain. She accomplishes the climbing goal she set with Luca, and as the sun rises, we hear the sound of a helicopter in the distance, and the movie comes to the end. Okay guys, that's all the recap of The Ledge. Thanks for watching, see you again in the next video.